beginning of the item, please. 18623, apologies for absence, please. Thank you. 18723, the minutes of the full council held on the 27th of June. Our council is happy that they are a true record. Pages 1, 2, 3, 4. On to 18823, committee meeting minutes. First one being amenities committee. What have we got for that? For Jeremy.
I'll present the minutes, and there's a couple of recommendations. First thing I want to do is just bring members' attention to the town team manager's report. It mentions the Anglia in Bloom competition. It's becoming a real highlight for the committee, but particularly for myself as chair of that committee, to welcome the judges to Thetford. We all know the frustrations about trying to make our town better, but what's really nice about the judges coming is, certainly on this occasion, as with last year, they are people that have never been to Thetford before, and they come with no predetermined view, very much eyes wide open, and they give us some really fantastic feedback about our town. The efforts that the town council in particular are going to, with the hanging baskets throughout the town centre, the floral displays around the market square, and some of the shrub beds that we are responsible for. The judges have been very complimentary, and it's a credit to our staff, but also the conservation volunteers and others that have been doing that work. We don't know how we will fare in the judging. The results are announced in October, but it was genuinely a pleasure to show them around this year. They will produce a report which highlights a number of recommendations for improvements. What we do with that report is send that on to Brackland and send that on to Norfolk, so that we can take stock of the things that we know need to be improved, but also recognise where things are working well. And I think that's really important that we do that. The first of the two recommendations, 12923, which is the parish partnership. This has been a very successful scheme with Norfolk County Council over the last few years, where they match a contribution from the town council to fund very small scale highways interventions, new pathways, that sort of thing, flashing speed signs and the like. The Bladen Bridge pathway was funded by this scheme last financial year, or might have been the one before, I lose track. But the committee recommendation is that we set aside £25,000 from the open space reserve to be matched with £25,000 from Norfolk County Council, subject to our bid being successful. And that will fund a new pathway along the river corridor near Nuns Bridges. It's an area recognised as needing an improved pathway. It's very well used, but there's no formal pathway there at the moment. By putting in that new pathway, it will improve access and open up that section of the river corridor to more people. It's a really good opportunity for us to leave us some money out of Norfolk County Council, like for like, and the recommendation is that we put in an application for £25,000.
So, recommendation. Proposer, Councillor Jeremy, you wishing to propose? And the seconder, Councillor MacDonald. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the second one is another application. Norfolk Community Foundation have a pot of money in relation to greening our community is the name of the fund. Specifically for environmental projects, the maximum application is £5,000. The committee want to adopt a number of locations around Thetford to improve, to create pocket parks. That's something that's identified in the manifesto document that we've adopted as a council, to take on those locations and work with local residents to improve them. You'll see the list in the minutes, but the locations which we've discussed is a parcel of land on Thormston Road near the entrance to Stanningforth Road, the junction of Kimsbell and London Road, St Martin's Way running adjacent to London Road. There's a number of shrub beds all along the front there, which are currently owned by Brackland Council. Rosecroft Way in the middle of the Cloverfields estate, Ladies Estate in the middle of the estate there, and also Glebe Close. I think I'm right in saying that all of those locations are currently owned by Brackland Council. The plan would be that we as a town council take them on under a licence to cultivate and work with the community to make them much more attractive, welcoming spaces and more beneficial for the environment. Again, that's using £5,000 of our open space reserve money to match with £5,000 from the funding. That's the recommendation.
Proposal, presumably Councillor Jeremy's wishing to propose that. Can we have a seconder, please? Councillor McCambridge. Show of hands, all those in favour? All those against? Okay, carried.
Move the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
All happy? Great. Thank you. Moving on then to the planning committee. Self was chair. Planning committee meeting of the 11th of July. It's all resolved business. Pages 1, 2, 3 and 4. To move minutes. Those that were present. 3. Yep. Thank you. Moving then on to the allotments committee of 13th of July. Councillor Harvey, present.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes allotments committee from the 13th of July. There is one recommendation that we revise the council's committee's terms of reference so we can allow 3 full councillors onto the committee.
So we have a recommendation there. You're happy to propose that?
Yeah, definitely.
Go to seconder, please. Councillor Land. Do we have all those in favour? Those against? Carried.
Let's move the minutes vote.
Happy to move minutes?
Agreed.
Agreed. Moving then on to the Finance and Personnel Committee of the 18th of July. Councillor Jeremy, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move the minutes. There's one recommendation. You'll see further down the line, it's to agree to trial some new software in relation to the publishing of agendas and minutes and the tracking of decisions arrived at by committees. I'm sure lots of new councillors are finding lots of meetings, lots of bits of paper, and we want to make sure that they are being received and tracked and dealt with in a timely way. It's felt by the Finance and Personnel Committee that a good piece of software to use to enable us to achieve that is called Decisions. So the recommendation is that we adopt that with training to be provided to all councillors before the end of August. The use of Decisions software to be trialled up to the end of December, and then there'll be a review by councillors done to assess whether to use Decisions on a permanent basis or look to use alternative tools. So it's a bit of a trial and error, but hopefully it will improve the flow of information, the flow of papers, keep everybody on the same page, thereabouts, and a way of tracking decisions that the committees arrive at. So we had a good chat about this at Finance and Personnel, and it was very much felt that this was a good way to go.
Okay, just ask the recommendation reasoning being because he didn't feel it was in the remit of that committee to do so. Okay. So,
Yeah.
We're happy to propose.
Yeah.
Can we have a seconder then? Would. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Move minutes. Thank you. On to venues and markets of the 19th of July. Councillor Land, I believe.
Chair, the recommendation that the council agrees to amendments adopts the media policy. The document unlocking Thetford's potential sites will become a champion for all that's good and positive in Thetford and use its resources to support and promote our great town. For that to happen, as you said, we need a joined up media policy that affects the 21st century, as well as the previous policy served us. The landscape it was written no longer exists. So once again, we've absorbed best practice from other areas to construct a document that will best serve the people of Thetford via both digital and analogue media.
So you're happy to propose that as a recommendation. Just have a seconder, please. Mr. Peters, all those in favour? Against? None. Thank you. Councillor Land, I think.
Yeah, regarding the market coordinator, once again, we looked at best practice. I went over to myself to Swaffham to chat with their council there. They have a thriving market, and I wanted to learn how they do it. Had a long chat with them there, which was very good. And on the back of that, proposed that we employ a market coordinator to look after our markets. They're already growing since the elections in May, and that's lovely to see. And I think it's testament to the good, strong work of officers, David Brooks and Ilona. I've forgotten her name for a second. Yes, thank you, Karina. But a market coordinator could come in and, as well as improve the market as it is, could potentially provide relief for officers as well. I think it's an investment that will pay for itself in terms of footfall, and would thoroughly recommend it. Thank you.
Before we go to that, Councillor Peters and then Councillor Harvey. Just stand, please.
I also attended the meeting and we discussed it at quite a length, and we've also had a big staff and it was discussed there. Personally, I think we used to have a market coordinator, and personally, I think if we want to grow the market, it's one of the things that when I was up for election, one of the things that people said was the market's rubbish. We need to work on the market, get the market going. If we don't have that market guy there, then it falls down to the existing staff. They're stretched as it is. So I, for one, support that the market coordinator, because I think it will pay for itself in the long run, because you'll get the footfall in, you'll get everything in, and it can't do anything but make it better in the markets.
Okay. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. It's a really positive move. We've always had a market in Thetford since the early times. You might have gone, I didn't. But, so it's a positive move. We have to encourage our market traders back. Thetford Market is a hub on a Tuesday and a Saturday. We want people to come in. The more people we attract to the market, the more come to King Street, spend money, etc., etc. So it's a good idea.
Anybody else wishing to speak to the proposal? No? Okay. So Councillor Land's happy to propose.
The proposal is actually the salary of the proposed market coordinator to be funded from the visage savings.
Okay, Clerk's going to read the
actual
proposal.
The actual proposal on the agenda.
193 budget implications.
Let me just read that. So I haven't got copies of that in front of me.
Yeah, then
That's on the, it's in the body of the agenda.
wrong. Can you have that? So the actual motion is to confirm a change in the staff establishment that was used to prepare the 2023-24 budget, to identify the source of funding of the additional post should it not be possible to fund the position from Vermins. Decision required is to approve the additional post on the staff establishment and to identify possible funding sources, which has been done by the finance officer in the supporting papers.
So I apologise that obviously that is tabled as a later agenda item. We are dealing with it under the committee minutes from here. Are councillors happy to deal with that agenda item now?
Yep.
So we've had the discussion, we've had the recommendation now read out. Councillor Land, I believe, is happy to propose. I have a seconder for that proposal. To the Peters, I saw the hand first. Could we have a show of hands, all those in favour? Against? None. Thank you. Happy to approve those minutes, Councillor Land. Yep.
Yes,
Thank you. So then moving on to 18923, Mayor's remarks and report. We had a reasonably busy July. It was very pleasant to attend all those different events. The Academy Awards evening was particularly pleasant to enjoy the buzz that surrounds the school at the moment. It was really great to come away from there really uplifted, and they're oversubscribed, and pupils and parents that I spoke to were really thriving about the school, so that was great. Obviously, we got some great publicity with the Thetford and Punjab launch. We received more than our fair share of BBC One and ITV coverage of that, which was good to see some positive aspects of Thetford being brought out in the mainstream media. We don't get too much EDP coverage at the moment, but at least we've got something on the television there. And then obviously we had Desert Rats last week. It looks as though that'll probably be the last format that we've had for those mayors that have attended in the past. They're struggling with volunteers and the army commitment. There will be quite a large gathering next year. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. But after that, I think they will be just looking to maintain the memorial rather than having an event as such. And then I was very pleased to open the Made in by the River exhibition at Ancient House on Friday, which if anybody gets a chance, it's nice to appreciate the manufacturing industry that has been shaped by the river over the years, and that running for another 6 months. So, Deputy Mayor, wish to speak?
Yeah, I went to see the performance of The Little Mermaid at the Thetford Academy. I must admit, I was quite surprised by the quality, the performances of young children. It was really good. The whole place was full. And it was, to see these children behaving, and acting in this manner with hardly any, obviously they've been practicing the stuff, but it was really good. It was that good that my wife cried at the end. So.
I'll forgive you for telling everybody
Possibly because she had to go home with me, I don't know. That's what it was. But it's a really enjoyable evening, and full credit has got for the Academy and the staff who made us welcome. The buffet or buffet it was, which we had, was there. It was really good. Unfortunately, due to ill health, I couldn't attend the civic service or the cricket club, which was unfortunate.
Thank you. So we're moving on to 19023, Town Council representatives on other bodies. Go on and just raise a hand if they want.
Chair, Safe and Thetford Action Group. So we've had our July meeting on the 5th, and we've got another one on the 20th of August. We're into a very quiet period now, and this is fairly typical through the summer, but that is partly due to the reason that the Public Space Protection Order needs to be renewed. It gets renewed every couple of years. But what that actually means is we have to put another bid in, and we have to prove that we need that order to continue. It turns out it's an essential tool for the police. They really rely on it. It helps them no end. And along with that, we're trying to influence a cumulative impact assessment around drinking and establishments in the town. That's off sales, not pubs. Those two things together are requiring a lot of staff work, if you like. There's a lot of behind the scenes work, and we're trying to gather the other evidence for those. And so for that reason, our next open meeting is on the 7th of September, which is about all the time these things come to fruition. So I expect that to be fairly busy, and I hope to see some members of the public attend that meeting on the 7th, and it will be advertised. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. That'll be at 7:30 at the Guildhall.
Just running around the table, any further representatives on these from Town Council representatives? No? No? Okay. Then on to 19123, County and District Councillors' reports. I see we've got Councillor Kybird in the audience and Councillor James hiding behind there. I'll leave it to you who wishes to speak first.
Thank you. Can I just say, as Deputy Mayor, Councillor Brooks and myself thoroughly enjoyed the evening. We attended the Little Mermaid. They were outstanding, those young people. They really were. And credit to the school. So, on to sensible stuff now. Further to last month's report, the illuminated no right turn signs that are at the exit of Cloverfield Estate have now been replaced. And I'm pleased to see that Sam's Tea Machine has had its first outing for a considerable time. However, I am concerned that this has been fitted incorrectly, as I was of the understanding that they cannot be fitted to powered columns, and on both occasions they've been attached to streetlight columns. So if we could have some clarity on that, please. I've had a meeting with the residents of Ford Street, along with one of my town council colleagues, regarding highways issues that they're experiencing, and I'm currently working with the highways team to explore options that are mindful of all of our residents' needs. Just a little reminder that the jointing cable works will be taking place in the Castle Lane Nuns Bridges area over the coming months, and diversions will be in place to allow that to carry on safely, but access will still be available for residents. Number 88 and 89 bus that runs between Thetford and Kings Lynn and is opened by Coach Services Limited will now run every 2 hours. Previously, it only ran 2 off-peak buses per day. This means that a later bus from Kings Lynn, leaving at about 20 to 6, whereas before about 20 to 5, which is great news for commuters and our students alike. Across the larger county council piece, the Big Norfolk Holiday Fund Scheme is underway, offering free activities for young people aged 4 to 16. But those who are eligible for benefits related to free school meals can access those activities free of charge, but anyone can book onto most of the activities for a small fee if needs be. This is a Norfolk County Council scheme delivered alongside our partner Active Norfolk, with funding provided from the Department for Education. Finally, it's going to come as no surprise to you all, the Summer Reading Challenge has started in our fantastic library. This year's theme is Ready, Set, Read, celebrating play, sport and games, and is aimed at our young people aged 4 to 11. You all know I have a slight passion for literacy, and this challenge also promotes mental wellbeing and fun for a number of events and activities. Please do pop in and see our great Thetford team and get your young people signed up ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor James?
I might be able to reply on the Sound 2 machine. Actually, the powered column thing is a bit like Breckland, Norfolk. It depends which column you pick. So the ones that we've got the Sound 2 machine mounted on apparently are good enough to hold the weight. Most of the others aren't.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the reading piece in the library has already been launched, and it runs across all the summer holidays. So if any of you have never experienced it, I know Councillor writes with our young people, we've regularly been in there. So ultimately the challenge is to read a minimum of 6 books over the summer holidays. They read them in batches of 2. Previous years, you could get stickers at intervention points and that kind of thing. And then there's a celebration event right towards the end, September time, just after they go back to school. Whenever the library is open.
Councillor Coyburn, have you got?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for opening the, as my chairman of the Museums Committee, Atom, for opening the exhibition, and for those other councillors who attended. You've seen them at the Ancient House Museum. If you are keen on museums, join the Friends and you get free entry all here. So what else? Breckland have been investing £500,000 in energy efficiency measures at 3 sports centres. I think there's more going into doing the Thetford, because Thetford, although it's older, is already more energy efficient. Good thing. Thing that is likely to affect us in 2027, the Boundary Commission have started a review of wards across the district, and Forest Ward is the one with the lowest number of closures per councillor, so there's likely to be some redistribution within or around Thetford. Cabinet also approved support for 3G or weather pitch at the sports centre, and that brings in nearly £500,000 of funding from the Football Foundation. And they also approved the Breckland Bridge Joint Venture business plan. I think there has been discussion of some of the small sites, and along with what Terry Jamie said earlier today, I think there's still work to be completed on who does what and why. And just to remind you that there's 2 drama presentations in the Friary in August and outdoor cinema at the beginning of the month.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Regarding the mugger, could you make it clear that we are protecting Thetford Hockey Club as well, please?
Yeah, that's a separate initiative, which, we'll see. I mean, it's in advanced stages of happening, but I don't think it's signed off yet.
Mine was some question, as the provision for the Hockey Club in the service.
It's certainly been discussed, and they're working with Brown people. Trying to see there.
Which, as a council, I've got things that possibility of a lot of Hockey Club.
Well, I mean, right. So the problem is you wouldn't get the half for the football pitch because the services for hockey don't meet the Football Association's requirements, and that's why they've been looking in a different direction to maintain the delivery of hockey.
Yeah, it's being discussed. It's
Oh,
not just being.
No, it's absolutely at the advanced stage, I think. And the question earlier about commercial waste bins, I mean, that is the new waste contract that Brecon has a waste contract with King's Lynn and Brecon. King's Lynn is a commercial waste bin service, and that's been extended to the other two districts and potentially will generate profits up to 40,000 a year. So that, all these things help keep the council tax down. Thank you.
And then moving on to our district councillors, on the table. Jeremy, your county out, I presume you shouldn't just.
Well, I tend to focus on
Yeah.
county because I don't steal anyone else's thunder when they do district ones. So, couple of similar theme. There's a couple of sort of long-standing niggles of casework that have been completed of late, which I'm really pleased. So, firstly, the junction of London Road, St Nicholas Street, the bus station there, the curbing had been missing, and there was a huge hole, and it had been like that for at least a year. Really pleased that County were true to their word and have completed that by the end of July, and the barriers and sandbags have gone. I know that was a particular worry for town council staff attending to the bus station toilets. And then I noticed as I literally drove here this evening, the tree on the junction of Castle Street, Castle Lane, has been cut back. That's an ongoing issue. It's in Thetford East Division rather than mine, but residents of Nunnery Drive area and particularly contact me regularly about that junction because that's one of their main routes. That has been cut back, but it would be so much better if it was just cut back automatically without any of us having to complain about it. And then lastly, on casework, there was a discussion at the last Town Council Planning Committee about the existing 3G pitch and the dog walking area and the pathway around that 3G pitch. So I took it upon myself to speak to Breckland about that and ensure that that area is better maintained to support walking and dog walkers in particular, as was the original agreement. And the only other thing is I've circulated to members. I was very pleased to table a motion at Norfolk County Council in relation to the highways service. As county councillors, the vast majority of our casework is either roads or weeds, grass cutting, or those sorts of issues falling under the highway service. And I really wanted to just test the boundaries of how it could be worked better. Norfolk is a big place, and I always feel as a county councillor that amongst the 84 members, I as an individual member don't get much of a say in the whole of the highway service, and what we might expect as a certain standard here in Thetford might necessarily be what they want in Hunstanton or somewhere else. So I wanted a more devolved approach with local county councillors, but also district councillors having much more say over highway standards in their area and monitoring the service. That wasn't adopted. Fair enough, that's democracy. But I have shared with you the text of the motion that was tabled and my speech in support of that, just to give you a flavour of some of the things that we debate at county. I'm sure it'll make at least some people's ears prick up when I say that part of the reason for that is around transport policy with things such as ultra low emission zones and 20-minute neighbourhoods. Transport policy is set by Norfolk County Council. I think that's quite a remote council. I would much rather see local councillors have more of a say in policy like that for their local area. And it's, you know, it's one of the tests of our democratic process. There was also a motion on school uniforms. It's a critical issue at the moment for lots of families looking for people starting school or changing school or just growing up into a different year. And there was a motion to try and make school uniforms more affordable. There's huge variation across the county as to what different schools charge for their uniforms. It is incredibly expensive in a lot of cases, as I'm sure many of you will know. The motion sought for the county council to have more of a role in reducing those costs. The motion wasn't adopted, unfortunately, but again, it has prompted a debate and a discussion about this issue, and you know, proves that councillors are aware of the concerns of local people, even if we don't always make immediate progress. These issues are being talked about. Thank you.
Questions for Councillor Jeremy on Norfolk County Council matters? No, then we move on to. Oh, sorry,
No, it wasn't a question. The Brexton Council.
Yes, no, we'll come.
Thank you. So I just wanted to give a brief update on my participation at Brexton Council. Brexton Council declared a climate emergency in 2019 and are working towards net zero by 2035, which is an ambitious goal. And to achieve it, many areas require investment and development at a rapid pace. I've been speaking with Brexton Council members and officers so that I can get involved in making net zero by 2035 a realistic goal and to empower those living in Brexton to live environmentally sustainable lives. So far, I've raised 2 questions at full council on this topic. At the last Brexton full council, I asked a question about who the council bank with and how pensions are invested, because this is a big way that fossil fuel companies and other things are supported. And it was confirmed that they currently bank with Barclays, who are the #1 investor in fossil fuels, and the council's pension funds don't currently have limits on what they can be invested in. So the upshot of that is that they are due for renewal soon, and hopefully these things will be considered at that time. And at the previous meeting, I asked about plans for decarbonising the planning and development processes, which there are no current plans in place. But in more positive news, at the last council meeting, investment of £530,000 for decarbonising Thetford and Durham leisure centres was approved.
Councillor Brindle, Mike, we got anything? Anybody else on the side? No, come round. Yep, Councillor.
I may have had a rush of blood to the head earlier. I think I said 7:32 and it's 7 for the stag meeting. Before we go back any further, otherwise you'll all be turning up and I'll be walking out.
Councillor Land, back to you for Bregland matters, please.
Great. Thank you for correcting the record, Councillor.
That's fine.
3 things to talk about with regards to Bregland. First one was, along with you, Mr. Mayor, I was very pleased to attend the opening of the Punjab Festival in Thetford and also the Thetford Mela on the Sunday. It's a brilliant thing. I love it personally, but I also, more importantly, think it's a great asset to the town of Thetford. It brings people in, it raises our profile and does so much good for the town. And also, along with everybody else here who went to The Little Mermaid, what show? Absolutely superb. And I would commend the children of the Academy for the work they did. It was brilliant. More seriously, at Bregland Council, under questions unnoticed, I asked a question about, I've had complaints from residents, you may know one of them, madam, who worried about Serco cutting before they've litter picked. This is an issue. I've had a response today from Bregland, and I think there's going to be a bit of back and forth around that. Thank you.
I think us long-serving members of the council, that it is a continual battle. I think we will continue to have, but I think it needs to be raised. And so, thank you for that. Coming down the table, is there any further Bregland councillors before I get to Stuart? Councillor Terry.
I'll start with, I went to the Little Mermaid as well. And I have to say, I think these pupils are an absolute credit to our town. The school, you know, a number of years ago, really went through a bad time, and it's turned the corner. They are part of the Inspiration Trust, and they are an absolute credit to this town at the moment. Mr. Fordham, I've spoken to last week regarding a traffic issue, and it's high on his list of agendas to sort out in September. He's aware, he's going to put speaking to the police to say that the congestion on Croxton Road by the school should be sort of double yellow lines and prevent, any further traffic. I attended the Wargraves Cemetery talk a couple of weeks ago, and I'd say it was absolutely fantastic. And Mac and his colleague Nick, certainly very, very knowledgeable. And the pupils or the students that are in the history group at the Ancient House Museum, they sort of, again, done our town proud, sort of talking about some of the ex-servicemen that sort of sadly passed away during the war. Now, the other thing is I attended the Thetford Cricket Club Vice President's lunch. Sadly, there was no leather on Willow on Saturday because of a little bit of rain, but there was copious amounts of red wine, which is fairly good. The purpose of these Vice President lunches is to actually raise money for a new clubhouse. Thetford Town Cricket Club is the oldest cricket club in Norfolk, but unfortunately, the facilities don't match, what they've got or what they should have. I had a meeting with Sam Chapman-Allen a couple of weeks ago and raised concerns that Brecon District Council and Thetford Town Council, they don't support any of our sports clubs, not just Thetford's, but Breckland's. And it's a travesty considering that we won the Olympics on the back of a legacy to look after the next generation in sport, and we're not providing that. And there's something that needs to be done, at district, county and town level to make sure we got sports people coming through sort of our town. And that's it.
So hard, I didn't want to miss you this month. Last month.
That's okay. Easy done. Just two or three. I couldn't attend the cricket VP thing, unfortunately, because I wasn't very well, but I would agree with Stuart. My son used to play for Thetford, and the facilities were dated. The changing rooms, the clubhouse, etc. We need to modernise our sports club all the way through, no matter whether it's hockey, cricket, football, tennis, whatever. We need to encourage youngsters to get out and take part in sport, not sit indoors playing on their iPads, etc. We want to get them out playing on which is another reason why we've got to protect our green spaces so kiddies can get out and have active behaviour. On a more different note, I've been struggling for the last 3 years to find out who owns the brick wall around St Barnabas. As you'll notice, there's 3 huge great holes. And you have to excuse the Norfolk expression of huge, but that's the way it is. If taken till today to actually find out, it appears it's Breckland, who, when I first approached them, told me it's not ours. And dare you suggest?
Councillor Kai, bird one.
It was Breckland's when they spent 30,000 on it with us 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I thought it was flagship. The flagship have now sent me the official title plan and official copy register, so I'm going to forward that on to Breckland tomorrow, so possibly we can protect that historic wall, because it's not good when you drive into town and you see that there. On another note, I've also had several emails from our elderly residents who do not know that they can have assisted bin deliveries. We should advertise this more. I don't know, they have to go on to Line to find out. Some of our elderly residents do not have access to the internet, etc. They're frightened of it. So I'm trying to push this forward now, that when I go to Breckland next, I can get some stuff down so we can make sure that lots of our residents know that they can have assisted bin deliveries, to move their wheelie bins and backwards and forwards. And also, on a serious note, myself, Councillors Blackburn and Blackburn, we had a visit to Queensway School, and we heard some stuff, bad news that were happening. As we find out more, I will update the committee as we go along.
Just on that bin situation, is that something that we can publicise through our Facebook and what have you?
Yeah.
We can take that up to action. Good, thank you. Any further questions from the councillors for our district and county reps? No? So then we move then on to 19223, update on the Great Thetford Partnership. We do have the GTP officer in the room, and I understand that she's going to give us a little update on the thing. That'll save us who had attended having to give that update.
So really, I've only been in post for a month, so this is more to introduce myself. We've had the first meeting now, but before I update on that, a little bit about why I'm in post. So my background is in town centre management and place management. So you'll notice I don't have a Norfolk accent. It's screaming on this from Essex, not from here. Yeah, it's two of us now, so three. Sorry, bigger apologies. But I've been a resident in Thetford for about 5 years now. So I've come along doing more district-wide project management to be more Thetford focused. So it's quite nice to kind of be working locally, much less of a community work steering. So my background is things like event management, working with highways on infrastructure. I've managed markets, so I won't be going for the markets. Sorry. So the one thing that I can report from GTP is that the outcomes are the same. So we'll be focusing on growth. So that's looking at the urban extension and making sure that that's done in a sensible way for the town and cohesively. So just bonking in a load of houses and the infrastructure that support that around that. That also improves things like business growth as well, looking at things like the enterprise park, which has fallen a bit dead in the water recently. So looking to push that and see where that's going. Vibrancy is the next thing, so that's looking around the place, branding really, marketing around Thetford. Who are we? Do people know about us? Are they saying the right things about us? The river fits in with that as well, because that's a big part of our brand, so it's capitalising on that. So I'll also be sitting on the BFBR board there in those meetings. The third is connected. So that's anything from highways, roads, also walking and cycling. I think we've contacted already about walking and cycling, so we're trying to push some of that forward. And then the last one is around making sure that we're on top of our skills and opportunities locally, employment and aspirations with young people and that legacy work coming through. One thing that I've got massively talking to different partners of the board and just stakeholders that I'll hopefully bring to this is one, there's not been enough communication. So I'll be coming to every town council meeting now to give an update. Also, there should have been an introduction email that's gone round, so you've got my details. I'm paid for by town, district and county. So although I'm line managed by the district council, doesn't mean that I'm solely, responsible to the district council. I'm kind of accountable to all three. So if you have any questions, please contact me. It also works both ways. So it means that I can also poke county, district or town with a big stick as well. So that's quite handy. So any kind of comments that have come up around Serco, for example, assisted bins, I can take that information and pass that back if we're not getting anywhere. So do come and speak to me for that. The other thing is, I've heard loud and clear, I've worked on the future Brexit projects before. There's a lot of strategy and talk about what we should be doing and what's working well and what isn't, and putting documents together. Hopefully the shift now with myself coming to will be more delivery focused, so less around kind of aligning everything. That's kind of been done. We've asked, I think, residents and people like yourselves 1,000 times what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We've got that in many documents. It's what do we do now to take that from paper into deliverance and kind of keep talking around the table. So that's kind of my update on GTP. I did say I'd also update on the station gateway projects. There's been a lot of whispers around this feasibility study around the station. So I just wanted to come really and be really upfront. We haven't seen the feasibility study. I have read the mysterious document. What this is, just to kind of hopefully put some nerves at rest really, is just to ask the question, one, this development, is that needed on the station? So this is predominantly a Greater Anglia document. The second question that we were asking in terms of the allotment spaces, is there space for development? It's answered that question, it's yes. is there a project that's kind of been developed? No, that's not what this document is. It's in draft at the moment, so once that's finalised with Greater Anglia, we will absolutely share that with you all, and yourselves in the allotment committee. As and when it gets to the stage of putting together a tangible project, we will come and we will talk to all partners, town council, seashore land, it's not Breckland. Those with allotments, we will come and involve everybody, those stakeholders, in developing what that project looks like. So the question is still open in terms of what is the project. The feasibility study really is just, is there an opportunity for this land? And in simple terms, it's yes. Does it answer, what does that look like? No, that's open for debate. How we've structured that internally, so colleague Stephen Scowen, his background is in more technical infrastructure, so he'll be leading on that side of the project. My role is to lead on the stakeholder engagement, so it's making sure that Steve is talking to town council, is talking to the allotment group, and that communication is crystal clear and really open. So that's by myself, and again, my email address is out there. So if there are any uncertainties, any questions, you can come and contact me, and I can either come and have a chat or send a formal response back. So that's kind of my update there. I'm happy to take any questions, but I don't know if it's easier outside of the meeting, particularly on the station.
I think Councillor Jones raised his hand, but I think it's nice to have you here able to talk to us. And if you're going to do it on a regular basis, post thing, I think it's a great idea. But Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations on your new role. You might not be originally from Thetford, but having been to a Zoom call with you one evening and then bumped into you literally in the lane next to me at the swimming pool, you are definitely part of it, much to my shock. But I love the idea of you coming to town council meetings on a regular basis. I think that's a really positive step. I can't stress this enough. Communication is absolutely key. I am privy to information as a county councillor. I'm privy to certain information as Breckland councillor. So are some other Breckland councillors here. But for those that sit around this table that are town councillors, often don't get included in the full picture. So if you can try and address some of that discrepancy, I think that's really important. And also from a public point of view, it is incredibly frustrating thinking about the disjointed nature of some of these different priorities. You know, Norfolk does something over here, and Breckland does something over here, and town council. Trying to bring all of that together, I think, is a really good opportunity for your role, because you have input with all of them, trying to bring different priorities, different resources, different strategies, do you know what I mean? And actually pull it all together is what we've always lacked. And if we can move towards that through your role, then I think will be a significant way forward. In the past, the minutes from the GTP board meetings were circulated to town councillors. If we can continue to do that, I think that's really useful. And then obviously do work with the two town councillors that are GTP board members as well, to make sure there's that flow of information. But I'm very pleased with the progress that's been made.
Any further questions from the table?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so moving on to 19323, which we've dealt with. So then 19423, Town Council response to the train station ticket office changes. I believe a draft letter has been tabled.
A statement.
A statement has been. Okay.
We can email it quickly.
Hopefully you have all had sight of that. So I presume we just want to note that is going.
Adam, it's all right.
Adam.
So I'd like to ask the council to adopt the statement. At the moment, there's a public consultation about the closure of train ticket offices on a national basis, but obviously Thetford ticket office being the one that we're concerned about. I'd like to thank Councillor Jefferson for help putting that statement together. As you can see, we've been work doing that. I won't read the whole thing, but there's a few bits and pieces that I'd just like to go through, so the members of the council and anyone in the public gallery can understand the motivation behind it. So ticket prices, for example, and I've used the train to King's Cross yesterday myself. If I go to the machine, it'll give me a standard ticket price. If I speak to the guy who works in the, or the lady who works in the ticket office, I can get a split fare depending on the time of day you go. So simply, it can be cheaper to actually liaise with an individual face-to-face rather than using a machine. Vulnerable users, elderly people, disabled people. I have massive concerns about, it's almost like an obstacle course getting the platforms at Thetford station, particularly right now with the scaffolding over, but even at the best of times, it's almost like an obstacle course. If we've got no staff on site, I think there's potential that they'll be put off using the trains, and which would effectively take me to my last point, which in a lot of industries now, they use the digital revolution as a phrase to becoming greener and becoming more environment friendly. And I think generally, if you want people to use public transportation, the trains being the sort of main usage here, we've got a mainline station, Norwich all the way through to London, and via Cambridge. I think we need to make it a cleaner, cheaper, and more user-friendly system to use. And by shutting the ticket office, which is currently open 7 o'clock in the morning till 1:30, 6 days a week, not open on a Sunday. If anything, I think we should be doing the opposite and actually extending the hours and opening it. So there is a public consultation that's open right now. I'd ask the council to adopt a statement so we can do that as a council. I'd also encourage everyone to do it as an individual, and any members of the public as well, because you can go online now as a public consultation. I think it closes tomorrow, so it'd have to be done fairly rapidly. So yeah, any sort of further comments or debate would be really appreciated if you can adopt it.
Any questions?
Question, just a bit. I was asking.
Just stand.
Right. Obviously, I support this coming from trade union background. One of the key things is there's good jobs there, and these jobs are going to disappear in the name of, for me, profit for the train companies. Anyway, most of them coming back into public ownership because they're poorly run. Closing the ticket offices is just an attack on jobs. It's not about making the railways any better. It's not about doing anything else other than saving money. And as a trade union, I would support anything that saves them jobs.
Mr. Land.
Some of you might say this is a point of view that has too much self-interest, but I'm particularly concerned about these closures for the elderly. For them, it's a double whammy. Online and mobile phone use by the elderly drops off the older they get, meaning they're not likely to get cheap tickets via the usual online route, and they won't be able to get them in person at the station. So this seems very harsh on people of advanced age. That's my point.
Mr. Stirrup, then Councillor Brindle.
Prior to driving, I was Cambridge based, and Cambridge is a very big station with a row of about 12 ticket offices, and the difference in ease from one to another. I remember the very first time I got a train from Thetford to Cambridge, a woman put a card in the machine and it ate it at the ticket machine, and she was stood there watching the woman in the windows if I tried to get out with nails because she couldn't get a ticket and she had to get the train. I think, as mentioned in the statement, as Adam said, the offers aren't easily explained online. So I used to get open returns because I had no idea what time I was coming back when I finished work, and that's not easy to navigate on online systems. I think mostly as well, to get the best deals out of things, I think we should be supporting, that's the economy as well, but supporting having people working there who can explain to everyone what the best thing is.
Thank you. Councillor Brindle.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank Councillor Land for supporting the elderly. And when I become one of them, I'm sure I agree with you. I'd also like to thank the colleagues who have produced the document. I think it's excellent. I think you actually were too kind to them. If you go online because you want to get, for example, from Thetford to London, you look in, you have to key in the station of King's Cross to get there. There is no way you can find out from that website that it's cheaper to go to Liverpool Street unless you already know that it's possible to get to Liverpool Street, which most probably don't. So the pretense that the website is an alternative, or indeed the ticket
machine is an alternative to a real human being, like the excellent Lee we have there, is just totally untrue. So all power to your elbow. I think we need to do everything we can to protect the situation at Thetford. As you rightly say, we should be expanding, not reducing the staffing.
That's what we've got.
Yeah, I agree with everything. Actually, this is really well written. I think it's really important to stand up for it as a town council. What I think is slightly ironic is that only just before that was tabled, we were talking about Great Thetford's development of other parts of our town so that they can improve their system, and yet they're undermining it themselves. And we've seen this time and time again when they, sell off pieces of their land and then look for other bits that they can use. So I'm so pleased we've stood up against them. Thank you.
Other comments from Councillor Terry?
Yeah, very good statement from Adam. At the moment, most rail companies at the moment are already shortchanging the passengers with the level of service on the line. So the latest cuts sort of spell nothing but trouble. It's a ridiculous decision, and it would only worsen the experience for passengers and would particularly impact the elderly rail users and those who are not as technologically savvy. It will also affect the disabled passengers. It will cause extra anxiety, and travelling by rail is already challenging if you're partially sighted or blind. Closing these ticket offices will force passengers to use alternative means to purchase tickets, either through booking online or using TVMs at a station. Some disabled people, neither of these options are accessible. Currently, many staff stations only have staff in the ticket office. Should ticket offices be closed or have hours reduced, there will be major reduction in staffing levels at stations. This threatens the provision of assistance as well as the availability of facilities like accessible toilets, heated waiting rooms and lifts, which are often closed while stations are unstaffed or accessed with keys that only staff can provide. Surprisingly, recent research has also found that visible staff at stations made disabled people, as well as other groups, feel safer when travelling. Passengers reported that without staff, they wouldn't know how to get the help in the event of a crime or incident. The service is suffering right now from underfunding and cuts, and we're seeing less and less staff. Already we're seeing train services cancelled because they're not able to cover for sickness. Taking away ticket offices is like removing the last line of defence. Dehumanising areas like this spells nothing but trouble. Making people rely on apps and online services is very problematic, and it will make it more difficult for everyone. But who benefits? It's not the benefit of the staff or the passengers, it benefits the big rail companies who will make substantial profits.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I must agree. I think it's an attack on staff. We've already seen the big railway companies cutting guards, etc., off trains. Ticket collectors have long gone. When you've got a young fan, you've got the ticket office with your grandchildren who are running about, you can suddenly grab, there. But when you've got to go to a ticket machine as well and you're trying to keep your eye on your ticket, it's not easy. But yeah, it's a profit before people motive.
It's happy for us to adopt that statement and send that in. Agreed?
Yeah.
Agreed. The 19523 support to Thetford River Group. Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've circulated a report for this, but in short, we as a council have outlined our commitment to supporting local voluntary groups in Thetford. And specifically, we've mentioned we're keen to support voluntary groups that remove rubbish from our river network. Countless quantities of rubbish has been removed over the years. They do a tremendous job. More recently, ever since Sean Reddy sadly passed away as part of Thetford River Group, they've lacked a convenient location near to the river to store their equipment, including the canoes, multiple. And there's been discussions ongoing between a number of organisations, but thus far there's not been a solution found to that storage conundrum. I think we've got an opportunity as a town council to support them, and I'd like to propose that we agree to use up to £2,000 from our open space management reserve to purchase a suitable storage option, possibly a small shipping container. This will be owned and continue to be owned by Thetford Town Council, but made available to the River Group through an agreement. And then secondly, to request that officers of the Town Council liaise with both Brecon Council and Keystone to secure a suitable location to store that container close to the river, either within the grounds of Riversdale or a Breckland-owned car park, e.g. School Lane Car Park or Tanner Street. They do a significant amount of good work on behalf of Thetford residents. They've never asked for funding from the town council or anybody else. They kind of just get on with it. And I think actually here is an opportunity for us to support them.
Cambridge.
I think it would be very difficult to overstate the importance of our rivers in Thetford, and we need to keep these rivers healthy. They're an incredible habitat for wildlife, so important for biodiversity. They're a beautiful asset and they're fun. So with local people learning to swim and canoe, a local business running from the river, and they're also vital for keeping cool in hot weather. So in the UK, there are a lot of issues with the health of rivers, including sewage leaks, littering and other pollution such as farming contamination. And to improve the health of our rivers, we need to regularly monitor and clean them. Thetford River Group put a huge amount of work into our rivers, and they're working hard to continue the legacy of Group founder Sean. The Environment Agency only have resources to check on contamination rivers when it's already been reported. So the group are able to actively monitor the river and report issues quickly. They carry out vital wildlife monitoring, and of course they keep it clear of litter as much as possible. Having a place to store their equipment and make it easier to carry out their work will mean that they can continue to do this important work. All group members are volunteering their time, and they have valuable specialist equipment which requires a secure place to be stored. I hope that we can support them.
Councillor McDonald.
Again, I'd like to echo all of that. I think it is vitally important that we support them. We've mentioned many times in a lot of our meetings about how we wish to grow our volunteering ethos within the town. We've already got a great volunteering group there, so let's support them. My only concern, and I will say this, is not about what we do for them, but where we place it. I'm really keen that we put it at Riversdale. I would be very disappointed if we put any container on what is currently car parking space. That would send out the wrong message and may end up, going against what we're trying to do. We're trying to do a good thing. We don't want it to be perceived as a bad thing. So I suggest that a slight amendment to that is we do everything we can to make sure that it goes in at Riversdale, which is very close to the river and a perfect location. But a great idea. Thank you.
Comments. So, Councillor McDonald's asked for a proposal amendment. Councillor Jeremy, did you wish to accommodate that in a slight changing of the wording, or do you want to move to the vote as it is?
No, I'm happy to move to the vote as it is. I do take on board Councillor McDonald's point. It's absolutely my preference for it to be on land at Keystone. There have already been conversations between Breckland and Keystone about that. But I don't like making things too restrictive. I'm quite happy to leave our officers to have the negotiations. They've heard our preference that it's at Riversdale, and I'll leave them to find a suitable location.
Okay, so we have a proposal. May I have a seconder? Do you want? Yeah, I think they just spoke to it. I think probably there. We have a show of hands in favour of that proposal. Those against? None. Proposal is carried. Thank you. Move on to 1623 community engagement. Had an earlier item which about the bins assistance, which is probably worthwhile. Is there anything further we wish to bring forward as a result of this evening's meeting?
Market coordinator.
The market coordinator is something else. Note of that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Jefferson.
Should promote consultation response as well. Sorry. I was suggesting, should we not also promote the consultation response with the group briefs tonight? Yep.
Anything further? Okay, so then we're on to 19720 committee officers update.
As you may or may not have had the opportunity to read my emails to you this afternoon, I'm sure you've opened up with glee and enthusiasm. We had a message from Breckland reference Glebe Close, and they have offered us a second opportunity to buy the land at Glebe Close. which obviously is up to councillors to decide whether they want to bring it off forward or not. Within our standing orders, we have, it's a mandatory, actually statutory thing, that decisions can't come back for reconsideration within 6 months unless 6 councillors write a letter or an email to me saying that they would like that brought back and the motion that they would like to accompany that. The quickest opportunity we would have to do that would be to put it on planning, should that be the wish of the council. And if it went on to planning, which I think is about the 11th or 8th of August, that would enable us to answer their questions within the given timeframe.
Okay, so Hayden's pretty much tired. We can't do too much to discuss here, but obviously if we do want to change the decision that we made, we need to have the councillors to sign that, so it can be then discussed in, and we take it in which way we want once we've got those things. So,
and the price remains at £2,000.
The asking price for Breckland is 2,000. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, if there are 6-minded councillors who wish to do that, if that can happen after the meeting and get it in as soon as possible, so we can accommodate that at planning. Nothing further? Okay, then on to 19823, exclusion of press and public. Consider resolving that pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. We're happy for the public to be excluded. Thank you for your attendance, and hopefully we'll see you again next year. Monthly. Yes.
It's all right.
Thank you for letting me come. Oh, thank you.